The concrete dust was still settling from my sledgehammer blow when I saw Beverly Ashford watching from her kitchen window. That same predatory smile spreading across her face as tactical vehicles rolled up my driveway. The SWAT commander's voice echoed through a megaphone. "This is a federal operation. Evacuate the premises immediately." I'd hit the pool floor exactly once, and somehow that single impact had triggered what looked like a military invasion of my suburban backyard. 3 armored vehicles blocked my street while tactical officers deployed with precision that reminded me of overseas operations I'd witnessed during my defense contracting years. Beverly stood framed in her window, phone pressed to her ear, coordinating with someone while watching federal agents surround my property, like she'd been expecting this moment for years. What Beverly Ashford didn't realize was that I'd spent 15 years as a defense contractor specializing in classified weapons testing, and the gas leak she'd reported to justify the federal response was actually covering up something buried under my pool that could expose a 20-year conspiracy involving stolen military technology. Now I know what you're thinking. SWAT teams don't respond to home renovations, right? But this story gets absolutely insane. And what I discovered buried under my pool will completely blow your mind. If you've ever had neighbors who seemed way too interested in your home improvement projects, share your weirdest experiences below, because after you hear what happened next, you'll understand that sometimes people aren't just nosy. They're protecting deadly secrets. 6 months earlier, retirement felt like freedom after 15 years developing classified electromagnetic weapons systems for the Pentagon. Cole Brennan, former defense contractor, finally ready to embrace civilian life in the quiet suburb of Pine Valley Crossing. The house came recommended by a military buddy who'd praised the community's respect for privacy and veteran-friendly atmosphere. The pool renovation started as simple maintenance, 30-year-old concrete showing stress fractures, filtration system failing, and insurance warnings about structural liability that could void my coverage. Jack Miller, my contractor, estimated $12,000 for complete renovation versus $40,000 for full replacement. Cole, this settling pattern's unusual. Jack mentioned during his initial assessment, studying cracks that formed geometric patterns rather than random stress lines. Looks like something's shifting underneath, putting pressure on the foundation. His observation triggered instincts honed by years analyzing structural failures in military installations. These weren't typical settling cracks. They suggested organized stress from deliberately placed objects creating pressure points against the pool's concrete shell. Beverly Ashford materialized within minutes of Jack's excavation equipment arriving, clipboard in hand and radiating authority that seemed disproportionate for a suburban HOA president. Her approach was calculated, professional, like someone accustomed to managing complex operations under time pressure. "Mr. Brennan," she announced, her voice carrying crisp authority. "This excavation requires environmental impact assessment and community safety approval." I looked up from the renovation plans Jack and I had been reviewing, immediately skeptical of her assertion. My research into Pine Valley's community guidelines had been thorough, conducted with the same methodical approach I'd used, analyzing weapons testing protocols for classified projects. "Beverly, I've reviewed all applicable regulations. Pool renovation doesn't require HOA approval according to our covenants." Her smile remained fixed, but something dangerous flickered behind her eyes. "Recent safety updates mandate approval for any excavation exceeding 24 inches in depth. Your project clearly requires comprehensive environmental review." The specificity triggered my professional paranoia. Beverly wasn't just enforcing rules, she was manufacturing them with military precision. But before I could challenge her authority further, she'd already retreated toward her house, speaking urgently into a phone with body language that suggested coordination with higher authorities. That evening brought an official violation notice delivered by certified mail despite living 4 houses away. Unauthorized excavation activity requiring immediate cessation pending federal environmental review. $1,000 fine, escalating daily until compliance achieved. With references to national security protocols and hazardous materials assessment, I called the HOA office expecting bureaucratic discussion about alleged policy changes. The automated message explained that President Ashford was handling all community matters personally due to federal coordination requirements. Her voicemail response was crisp, official, and completely unhelpful. Professional instinct warned me this transcended normal neighborhood politics. 15 years developing weapons systems for classified projects had taught me to recognize operational security measures, coordinated responses, and deliberate information control. Beverly's reaction suggested the excavation threatened something far more significant than aesthetic concerns. That night, I conducted background research using skills developed during security clearance investigations. Beverly's profile contained gaps that raised immediate red flags: generic employment history in government consulting, financial resources that exceeded typical civil service compensation, and residential history, showing strategic relocations near military installations. More concerning was her arrival timeline in Pine Valley Crossing. She'd purchased her house 5 years ago. Shortly after the previous HOA president had moved away unexpectedly, property records showed she'd paid cash, 30% above market value, suggesting urgency rather than careful investment planning. Jack returned the next morning with visible concern about the project's sudden complexity. 25 years of construction experience had taught him to recognize legitimate authority versus manufactured obstacles, and Beverly's intervention felt deliberately obstructive. Cole, that woman called my office 6 times yesterday, demanding detailed excavation plans and threatening federal violations if we proceed without environmental clearance. She's talking about soil contamination and underground hazards that don't match any survey I've seen. I handed him copies of my renovation permits, city approvals, and environmental assessments that showed clean soil composition throughout the property. Jack, we're following every legitimate requirement. Someone's trying to manufacture problems where none exist. But Beverly had prepared overnight. She arrived carrying professional folders containing documentation I'd never seen, geological surveys, soil contamination reports, and environmental assessments claiming my property contained hazardous materials requiring federal oversight. Her presentation was sophisticated, detailed, and completely fabricated. Mr. Brennan, these geological studies indicate significant contamination risks from previous industrial activities, she announced, spreading papers across Jack's truck tailgate. Your excavation could release toxic materials that threaten community safety and require immediate federal intervention. Jack studied the documents with growing skepticism. Decades of construction work had familiarized him with legitimate environmental reports, and these assessments contained inconsistencies that suggested sophisticated forgery rather than actual scientific analysis. Ma'am, I've worked this area for 20 years. These soil compositions don't match anything I've encountered in Pine Valley. Jack's voice carried the quiet authority of someone who'd actually tested ground conditions countless times. These reports describe contamination patterns from completely different geological zones. Beverly's professional mask slipped momentarily, revealing something calculating and dangerous beneath her community leader facade. Mr. Miller, I'm sure your experience is valuable, but these assessments were conducted by certified federal environmental specialists using advanced testing equipment. The conversation continued for 40 minutes, with Beverly producing increasingly sophisticated documentation supporting her claims. Each document appeared official enough to fool casual inspection, but my defense contracting background recognized subtle inconsistencies that betrayed high-level forgery capabilities. After she left, Jack pulled me aside with obvious unease. Cole, I've seen neighborhood disputes before, but this feels different. That woman's not just trying to stop your renovation, she's terrified of what we might uncover down there. His assessment aligned with my growing suspicions. Beverly's desperation suggested the excavation threatened something more significant than neighborhood aesthetics. But what could possibly be buried under a suburban swimming pool that warranted such elaborate deception? The answer began revealing itself when Jack's metal detection equipment started registering massive anomalies 18 inches below the pool's foundation. The signals were consistent with large metallic objects arranged in organized patterns. Definitely not random debris or standard utility installations. Cole, you need to see these readings, Jack called, holding up detection equipment that was practically screaming with electromagnetic activity. There's something substantial down here. Multiple objects, arranged deliberately, been buried for decades. I knelt beside the excavation site, studying detector readings with growing alarm. My weapons development experience included training with electromagnetic signature analysis, and these patterns resembled classified technology storage rather than typical construction materials. Doctor, Helen Cross appeared at my fence line as we examined the detection results. Her expression pale with recognition and something approaching terror. Helen had lived in Pine Valley since its original development, maintaining the kind of scientific expertise that made her insights invaluable for complex technical problems. Cole, you need to stop digging immediately, she whispered, glancing nervously toward Beverly's house. What you're detecting down there has been buried since the 1980s, and there are people who'll kill to keep it hidden. Her warning sent ice through my veins. Helen's expression held the haunted quality of someone carrying dangerous knowledge, and her obvious fear transformed my understanding of the situation completely. Helen, what exactly do you know about what's buried here? She looked around carefully before responding, her voice barely audible. I'm a retired Pentagon researcher, 30 years developing electromagnetic weapons systems. I recognize those signature patterns. They match prototypes that went missing during facility closures in 1985. The revelation hit like a physical blow. Helen's professional background gave credibility to suspicions I'd been developing, and her recognition of specific technology signatures meant we were dealing with classified military hardware rather than typical neighborhood secrets. Helen, I need you to tell me everything you know. If you're right about this, we're dealing with national security violations that go way beyond HOA politics. Her story would transform my understanding of everything, revealing why Beverly had been so desperate to prevent excavation and why she'd escalated to federal intervention when traditional intimidation tactics failed to stop our investigation. Those electromagnetic signatures match pulse weapons I helped develop for classified projects. The technology was considered too dangerous for deployment, but several prototypes disappeared when research facilities were decommissioned. I've suspected they were buried here since I detected unusual electromagnetic interference affecting neighborhood electronics. Helen's analysis aligned with patterns I'd observed during weapons development projects. Electromagnetic pulse technology required careful storage to prevent environmental interference, and the burial patterns Jack's equipment detected suggested professional military storage protocols rather than random concealment. What kind of value are we talking about? Each prototype is worth $50 million to foreign governments. The complete weapon specifications would give hostile nations electromagnetic capabilities that could disable American military systems. Helen's voice carried the weight of someone who understood the strategic implications. Whoever buried this technology has been sitting on the most valuable military intelligence cache in modern history. The scope was staggering. Beverly had apparently been protecting weapons technology that could shift global military balance, using her HOA position to monitor and control access to materials worth hundreds of millions of dollars to America's enemies. But Helen's most disturbing revelation concerned the timing of Beverly's federal response. Cole, she called that federal team exactly 3 minutes after Jack's equipment detected the electromagnetic signatures. Someone's been monitoring your excavation with professional surveillance equipment, waiting for this exact moment. The precision suggested coordination far beyond individual desperation. Beverly had access to real-time surveillance technology and federal coordination capabilities that indicated involvement with intelligence operations much more sophisticated than simple theft. Jack's excavation had unknowingly triggered a response from people who'd been planning for this contingency for decades. The question was whether I had the skills and resources necessary to survive whatever came next. Because Beverly's escalation to federal intervention meant she was prepared to use government authority to eliminate anyone who threatened her operation. As tactical vehicles continued surrounding my property, I watched Beverly through my kitchen window, noting details that had previously seemed innocent. The sophisticated communication equipment disguised as satellite installations, the reinforced security features that looked decorative but provided tactical advantages, the coordination patterns that suggested communication with federal agencies rather than typical neighborhood management. Helen was right. I wasn't dealing with an overzealous HOA president. I was facing a professional operative who'd spent decades protecting one of the most valuable intelligence assets in American history. And my accidental discovery had forced her to choose between exposure and elimination. The buried weapons technology represented strategic capabilities that foreign governments would pay anything to acquire, which meant Beverly would do anything necessary to prevent me from exposing their location. Her next move would determine whether this remained a legal investigation or escalated to something far more dangerous. But what Beverly didn't understand was that my defense contracting background had prepared me for exactly this kind of situation. While she'd been coordinating federal intervention, I'd been documenting everything, analyzing her operational patterns, and preparing for the kind of systematic investigation that had made my weapons development career successful. The war for Pine Valley Crossing was about to begin in earnest, and neither of us fully understood the international implications of what lay buried beneath my swimming pool. Helen's hands trembled as she unlocked a secure briefcase hidden in her garage, revealing 30 years of classified documentation that would shatter every assumption I'd made about my neighborhood. The files contained technical specifications, development timelines, and surveillance reports that painted a picture of systematic technology theft spanning decades. Cole, what I'm about to show you proves Beverly isn't just protecting stolen weapons, Helen whispered, spreading classified documents across her workbench. She's Sarah Blackwood, former CIA procurement officer who disappeared in 1985 with the most advanced electromagnetic pulse prototypes ever developed. She's been using Pine Valley as a storage facility while selling American military secrets to foreign governments. The name triggered recognition from classified briefings I'd attended during weapons development projects. Sarah Blackwood had been featured in Pentagon security warnings about insider threats, one of the most sophisticated technology theft cases in CIA history. The investigation had gone cold when she'd vanished with prototypes worth over $200 million. Helen, are you absolutely certain about this identification? She handed me comparison photographs showing Beverly at community meetings next to Sarah's classified CIA personnel file. The facial structure was identical despite subtle cosmetic alterations designed to avoid recognition. More damning was her technical knowledge overheard. Conversations revealed intimate familiarity with electromagnetic weapons specifications that only development team members could possess. The buried technology suddenly made perfect sense. Sarah had fled with complete prototype weapons systems, encrypted documentation, and international buyer lists. She'd buried everything in Pine Valley to avoid detection while building a new identity as Beverly Ashford, using her HOA position to monitor and protect the most valuable intelligence cache in modern history. Jack's excavation had threatened to expose everything she'd spent 20 years protecting under Lee. Her federal intervention wasn't desperate deflection. It was a calculated operation to eliminate witnesses and secure weapons technology before international buyers could be compromised. Sergeant Mike Torres arrived that afternoon leading the SWAT team, but his expression showed confusion about mission parameters that didn't match observed evidence. Federal deployment for environmental emergencies followed specific protocols, and our situation violated every standard procedure he'd encountered during 15 years of tactical operations. Mr. Brennan, we received orders about hazardous materials and potential terrorism threats, Sergeant Torres explained, reviewing documentation that clearly troubled him. But these deployment orders came through unusual channels, and the intelligence briefing contained gaps that raise operational questions. My defense contracting background provided immediate credibility with military personnel. Sergeant Torres understood I had clearance levels and technical expertise that made me a valuable source rather than a potential threat. Sergeant, I spent 15 years developing the exact weapons technology that's buried under my pool. Someone with high-level government access is using federal authority to cover up the theft of classified American military systems. His expression darkened as I outlined the scope of Sarah's operation and the international implications of stolen electromagnetic weapons technology. Military officers took technology security seriously, and the possibility of corrupted federal deployment triggered professional outrage that transcended bureaucratic loyalty. But our investigation took a dramatic turn when Agent Lisa Kane arrived from military intelligence, accompanied by General Robert Hayes, my former commanding officer. Their presence elevated the situation beyond local law enforcement to national security crisis management. Cole, we've been tracking Sarah Blackwood for 20 years, Agent Kane explained, reviewing Helen's evidence with obvious recognition. The Pentagon flagged electromagnetic anomalies in this area 18 months ago, but we couldn't identify the source until your excavation triggered detection systems. General Hayes provided context that transformed my understanding of the situation's scope. The weapons technology buried here represents breakthrough capabilities that could revolutionize electromagnetic warfare. Foreign governments have been paying premium prices for American military technology, and Sarah's operation has compromised national security on an unprecedented scale. The electromagnetic pulse prototypes weren't just valuable, they were strategically critical to maintaining American military superiority. Their theft and potential sale to hostile nations threatened to eliminate technological advantages that protected American forces worldwide. Agent Kane's investigation revealed Sarah's operation extended far beyond individual theft. She's part of an international weapons trafficking network that systematically targets classified American technology. The Pine Valley Cache is just one storage facility in a network spanning multiple countries and involving corrupted government officials. The buried weapons included complete electromagnetic pulse systems, classified development documentation, and communication equipment linking Sarah to foreign intelligence services. Recovery would expose an espionage network that had been stealing American military secrets for decades. But Sarah's most dangerous response came when she realized federal investigation couldn't be stopped through manipulation or elimination. Her final contingency involved triggering a manufactured national security crisis designed to justify permanent government seizure of the entire neighborhood. The emergency evacuation order arrived at 3:15 p.m. when Sarah contacted federal agencies claiming to have discovered terrorist weapons caches throughout Pine Valley Crossing. Her report described sophisticated devices targeting military installations, requiring immediate community evacuation and comprehensive federal investigation. "This is Agent Kane. I heard through secure communications as additional tactical teams surrounded the neighborhood. We have confirmation that Sarah Blackwood has escalated to community-wide hostage scenarios. All residents are now considered potential human shields in international espionage operation." The psychological warfare was brilliant and terrifying. Sarah knew federal agents wouldn't risk civilian casualties to pursue technology recovery, creating perfect cover for destroying evidence while escaping to non-extradition countries. Parents received evacuation orders while bomb disposal units searched homes for devices that existed only in Sarah's fabricated reports. Helen's house was among those evacuated, but her 40 years of weapons research experience proved invaluable for understanding Sarah's operational psychology. Cole, she's not just trying to escape, he's preparing to eliminate all evidence and witnesses. Those weapons prototypes contain technology that could expose her entire network if analyzed by federal experts. The electromagnetic pulse systems included embedded tracking technology and communication protocols that would reveal every foreign government and corporate entity involved in purchasing stolen American weapons. Sarah's operation wasn't just individual theft, it was systematic betrayal that had compromised national security for 2 decades. General Hayes coordinated military response while Agent Kane managed civilian protection, but Sarah's preparation had been decades in the making. She'd established multiple escape routes, offshore financial accounts, and international safe houses. Specifically for this contingency, she's activated protocols designed to eliminate the entire neighborhood if necessary. Agent Kane warned during an emergency briefing. Sarah's criminal associates include professional operatives who specialize in witness elimination and evidence destruction. Your discovery has triggered the largest counterintelligence operation in Pentagon history. The buried weapons cache contained more than individual prototypes. Forensic analysis revealed communication logs documenting 20 years of international sales, including electromagnetic weapons delivered to hostile nations currently threatening American interests. Sarah's operation had directly enabled foreign military capabilities that endangered American forces worldwide. Dr. Helen Cross became crucial for technical analysis as federal experts examined recovered weapon systems. Her original development work allowed immediate identification of specific technologies and their strategic implications for national security. These prototypes represent breakthrough capabilities that we specifically chose not to deploy due to strategic stability concerns, Helen explained to congressional investigators. Sarah's theft and international sales have given foreign governments electromagnetic weapons that could disable American military systems and communications networks. The scope of technological compromise was staggering. Sarah had stolen not just prototype weapons, but complete development documentation, testing procedures, and defensive countermeasures that eliminated American strategic advantages carefully maintained through decades of classified research. But federal investigation revealed Sarah's network included current government officials who'd been providing intelligence about technology development and security procedures. The conspiracy extended into Pentagon procurement, CIA operations, and congressional oversight committees responsible for weapons development funding. We're looking at systematic betrayal, spanning multiple administrations and dozens of high-level officials. General Hayes reported during classified briefings. Sarah's operation has compromised American military technology development for an entire generation. The international implications exploded when foreign governments began diplomatic protests about American accusations of weapons trafficking. Sarah's buyer network included allied nations who'd purchased electromagnetic technology, believing it was legitimate arms sales rather than stolen American classified systems. Congressional investigation hearings revealed the complete scope of technological theft and international sales. Testimony from military experts, Pentagon officials, and foreign intelligence contacts documented how Sarah's operation had systematically undermined American strategic capabilities while generating hundreds of millions in personal profit. Ladies and gentlemen of Congress, General Hayes testified. The weapons technology stolen by Sarah Blackwood represents capabilities that took 30 years and $20 billion to develop. Her international sales have eliminated American electromagnetic superiority and directly endangered every service member operating worldwide. Sarah's capture came during a dramatic confrontation at a private airfield where she'd been preparing to flee to a non-extradition country with remaining weapons, prototypes, and buyer lists. Federal agents coordinated with international law enforcement to simultaneously arrest network members across 12 countries. She's completely broken psychologically, Agent Kane reported after Sarah's arrest. 20 years of maintaining false identity while coordinating international espionage has created severe dissociative episodes. She's alternating between claiming patriotic service and threatening to expose government officials who facilitated her operation. The federal trial became an international sensation as prosecutors revealed the scope of Sarah's weapons trafficking network, expert testimony from military officials, foreign intelligence contacts, and corporate defense contractors documented systematic theft spanning multiple decades and affecting global military balance. Sarah Blackwood didn't just steal weapons technology. The federal prosecutor declared, she betrayed every American service member who depends on technological superiority for survival. She sold national security to the highest bidder while hiding behind suburban community leadership. Sarah's defense attempted to claim government authorization and intelligence community approval. But federal investigators found no legitimate authority for her actions. Her operation had been entirely criminal, motivated by personal profit rather than national interest. The guilty verdicts came on all 63 federal charges: espionage, weapons trafficking, conspiracy, treason, and terrorism. Judge Patricia Morrison sentenced Sarah to life imprisonment without possibility of parole, citing the scope of her betrayal and ongoing threat to national security. Miss Blackwood, your crimes represent the most serious betrayal of American military trust in modern history. Judge Morrison stated during sentencing, you have endangered every American service member while strengthening our nation's enemies. This court sentences you to life imprisonment to ensure you can never again threaten American national security. The technology recovery process required complete analysis of every weapon system and document to assess damage to American strategic capabilities. Pentagon experts spent months cataloging stolen technology and developing countermeasures to neutralize foreign advantages gained through Sarah's sales. International cooperation returned some stolen technology while strengthening oversight of weapons trafficking networks. Allied governments provided testimony about purchases made through Sarah's operation, helping federal investigators track money flows and identify additional network members. Pine Valley Crossing transformed dramatically after Sarah's removal. General Hayes was elected to the city council with a mandate for supporting military families and defense contractor communities. Property values increased as the neighborhood became known for exposing espionage rather than harboring weapons trafficking. The pool excavation that started everything was completed as a memorial to the importance of citizen vigilance in protecting national security. Community gatherings now include military families and defense contractors who appreciate living in a neighborhood that proved ordinary citizens could defeat sophisticated espionage operations. My consulting practice exploded after national media coverage highlighted the case. Defense contractors across the country hire me to implement security measures, preventing technology theft and insider threats. The detection techniques developed during the Pine Valley investigation have become standard procedures for protecting classified military development. Agent Kane earned promotion to head the Pentagon's new Technology Security Task Force, using lessons learned from Sarah's case to investigate similar threats nationwide. Her team has identified and dismantled 8 other espionage networks targeting American weapons development. 3 years later, the Sarah Blackwood case continues, generating positive changes for national security. Congressional testimony led to the Pine Valley Protection Act, federal legislation requiring enhanced oversight of weapons development and systematic background investigations for anyone accessing classified technology. Military academies now teach the case in counterintelligence and technology security courses, helping the next generation of officers recognize and prevent similar breaches. The operational profiles developed during Sarah's prosecution help security experts identify other sophisticated insider threats. Most importantly, the recovered technology has been analyzed to develop enhanced countermeasures protecting American military systems from electromagnetic attacks. The defensive capabilities derived from studying Sarah's stolen weapons ensure that American forces maintain strategic advantages despite foreign acquisition of older technology. Helen Cross became a national expert on technology security, consulting for the Pentagon and defense contractors implementing enhanced protection measures. Her simple detection techniques have prevented dozens of other technology theft attempts targeting classified weapons development. The Memorial Garden, honoring military personnel affected by weapons trafficking, displays photos of service members whose safety was compromised by stolen technology. Veterans groups visit regularly to understand how citizen vigilance protects national security and military families. 5 years later, Sarah remains in federal prison, serving her life sentence. Appeals have been consistently denied, and psychiatric evaluations show continued delusions about her patriotic service, despite overwhelming evidence of treason and espionage. The international cooperation triggered by her case has strengthened protection of military technology worldwide. Enhanced information sharing between allied intelligence services prevents criminals from simply moving operations when investigations begin. Defense contractors now implement Pine Valley protocols, comprehensive security measures developed from lessons learned during our investigation. These procedures have prevented an estimated 47 technology theft attempts over the past 3 years, protecting billions in classified development investments. Universities across the country study the case in national security and counterintelligence programs. Students learn how ordinary citizens can recognize espionage operations while understanding the balance between security awareness and constitutional rights protection. My twin nephews, both studying aerospace engineering, chose their career paths after learning about the Pine Valley investigation. They understand that protecting American military technology requires both technical expertise and citizen vigilance against those who would betray national trust for personal profit. The electromagnetic countermeasures developed from analyzing Sarah's stolen weapons have been integrated into next-generation military systems, ensuring American forces maintain technological advantages despite foreign acquisition of older prototype technology. Corporate security firms now offer Ashford detection services to defense contractors, using behavioral analysis techniques developed during Sarah's investigation to identify potential insider threats before they can access classified information. If you live near military installations or defense contractors, pay attention to unusual activities and neighborhood changes that might indicate technology theft or espionage operations. Document inconsistencies. Report suspicious behaviors. And remember, protecting classified technology requires citizen vigilance. But citizens also must remain alert to government overreach. Share your experiences with suspicious activities in the comments. And let's build a network that protects both national security and constitutional rights. Oh, and Sarah? I know you're watching this from federal prison. Your weapons trafficking network is completely dismantled. American technology remains secure. And yes, my pool renovation is absolutely perfect. Every time I swim in that water, I'm reminded that sometimes the best defense of democracy is just citizens who refuse to let criminals hide behind government authority.